Back from the break here, Todd Scarborough along with Dr. Tom Butler, and we're talking about hypertension. And Tom, when we think of hypertension, it's described pretty accurately, right? Excessive tension. Yes. And you know, the one analogy that I constantly use to people, kind of get it across, because that's the way I think. I boil things down into analogies and parables to some degree. Sure. Christ did the same thing. Sure. Worked for him.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple, exactly. Well, the thing that I try to get people to understand is that if you have a certain volume going through a hose that's 2 inches of water, and you reduce it to 1.5 inches, what happens? The pressure goes up. Why? You got the same flow going through a smaller tube. Well, that's all basically the arteries and the veins are. Is whenever you have hypertension, what happens is that pressure constricts the arteries, makes them smaller, doesn't allow them to expand, so therefore the blood pressure goes up. So tell us a few ways, it's not only nutritionally, but let's talk about the stress side of things. Sure. Because that's the first place we start, because I think the biggest mistake that Americans make, it's how we take that stress. We've got to learn to breathe, learn to relax, learn to take things in stride. But talk about the stress side of things as far as that goes mentally, but also the physical side as well.
Yeah. Well, there's chemicals, the epinephrine, norepinephrine. Mm-hmm. So they're going to cause vasoconstriction.
Mm-hmm. Fight or flight, right? I mean, that's whenever that's basically what it's there for, is to keep you from dying in situations when you need to run.
Yeah. And a lot of us are running on that adrenaline
24/7
instead of the good rest. Mm-hmm. We're amping up with what do they have? Fire,
Red
Bulls,
energy. Yeah. And then again, not enough sleep, and then it worsens the problem. There because we're trying to stay up.
I learned this the other day. The origin of the Red Bull. Maybe I shouldn't go into specifics, but anyway,
they don't sponsor the show. So.
Okay. It had to do with the rickshaw drivers, and they used to have this little bottle and it had a bull on it, and it was mostly taurine, which is kind of a natural diuretic. So anyway, that's a heck of a way to survive, isn't it?
Well, and again, you're kind of pushing the envelope, and it seems like that's what's happening with Americans in our health, as opposed to the warning signal, like in your oil light goes off in your car. Here comes another country boy analogy. You still have 4 quarts in there. You're just a quart low, and instead of us putting a quart in there nourishing the engine, what do? Go out and cut the wire that controls the light. That fixed that. And so that's essentially what we're doing in today's world, is instead of heeding these small subtle warning signals, we shut them down, we override them, and then all of a sudden, boom, here comes another big warning signal that's a lot harder to overcome, a lot more serious. So really the key, I think, to health is understanding when the body's giving you these warning signals. And hypertension is a basic small warning sign to say there's something wrong here, nutritionally or stress-wise, right?
Or, stress-wise, but it could be stress like we're talking about. Or think about this. You did your hose. Mm-hmm. You worked with fire engines and all that.
Sure.
So did my son. See, that's a good analogy. Mm-hmm. But the other thing is, think of how many pounds of person you have to feed. So the heart will have to pump harder if there's more of us to feed.
Very true.
So one of the easiest way for most Americans to become less hypertense is have less of you to feed, so your heart doesn't have to
lose weight, essentially.
So like a pound, So like a pound, you could lose 1, pound or 2. You could lose 1 or 2 mercuries of pressure down. Because it doesn't have to pump that much.
Doesn't have to pump
There's
that much.
There's not as much to flow.
Interesting. And you look at obesity, and it's implicated in almost every disease that we know of, from not only hypertension, but cancer and heart disease, and the list goes on. And why are we that way? We're carb freaks. We're eating too much. We're not moving the body enough. And one of the best things, and this is another thing that ties very well into stress and hypertension, the best way to get rid of that, physical activity. Go out and get it out somehow. I know with me, with working out, anytime that I'm depressed or feeling down or feeling stressed, I go to the gym. What happens in 10 minutes? I go, wow, I already feel better. Why? Because the endorphins start to kick in, blood flows, moving, the heart rate moves, and then it brings so much to the body. So we're designed to be physical creatures, no doubt about that. And I think, again, at the root of this hypertension, not only the stress side of things, but we're like a pressure cooker, steam in a pressure cooker. We're not allowing that steam to come out. It finally blows somewhere and comes out the wrong way. So the best thing to do is to find some way to relieve this stress or eliminate it from the beginning the way you take it. So many people take these things and take stressful situations too seriously. They don't stop and analyze and breathe and say, hey, and to see it as a separate thing from them and not something that they attach to.
Well, let's talk about that. That's a wonderful thing, I think, about this show, because people are going to think more broadly. So one thing you could do, just go wandering in with your hypertension and take a pill. Well, how good does that do? I just read a thing in here, who needs this a lot is the seniors. Well, only 20% of the seniors take their blood pressure medicine like it was directed. So you can't blame doctors, for goodness sake. They're giving them best advice they have. It's like, here, take this. And so 20% are doing it. So anyway, people, please hit this in a broad approach. Everything we say, every subject we hit, look in the broad approach. So Todd's saying, yes, train, but you could walk.
Yes.
You could. The one of the biggest studies was in '97. It was DASH, Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. All they did was get people 4 fruits, 4 vegetables, and some nuts and poultry and fish, and it went down like 16 points.
Imagine that.
Well, I mean, how easy is that? I mean, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, and then you add, I think if you add something like, and Tom made a good point, you don't have to go, and people think of exercise, they think of the highest end, which is me, like a bodybuilder, and you don't have to go in and yell at the dumbbells here, like I do. It's something that I enjoy doing. The most important thing, Tom, as you know, it's just being consistent with that physical activity, number one, and doing something that you like to do. I tell everybody out there that, look, find something that you enjoy doing, because if you don't like it, you're not going to do it for very long. You're going to stay with it. So my whole approach is just, when I counsel people on the physical side, it's moving the body and staying consistent. It's just that simple. You're going to get all the benefits from the physical activity if you will be consistent and find something that you can do that just moves. If it's walking, like you said, or walking hills, or whatever it may be.
If you don't have this planned in your life, the one thing that Todd does, that I've trained with Todd before, it's an experience. But anyway, one thing that Todd does is he focuses on his breathing when he's training.
Yes.
Now, that's what a lot of us are not doing. So one of the things I do with my patients, I'll say, just practice this. Breathe in through your nose for 5 seconds. Hold the breath for 5 seconds. Let the breath out of your mouth for 5 seconds. And as you let the breath out, try to see your tension relieving. Try to see wherever you feel the pressure or the pain or the, just use visualization. Visualize that and do that for 20 minutes. And most people can only make it about 5 to 10 minutes. They're asleep. So They're not used to relaxing. Other than sleeping.
And then again, these techniques like this, we're not necessarily taught this in the Western world.
No.
The Eastern world tends to do a lot of meditation and breathing exercises. And it is truly about stress is how you kind of take life. And even if you are relaxing and trying to breathe and do that exercise, and the whole time your mind's active, then you're not really doing anything. You've got to, like you said, on that out breath, try to let everything go. And one of the analogies, and I was telling Tom this, is that there was a study about 20 years ago about roller coasters, and this is kind of how life is to some degree. It parallels here. But they found people who hate roller coasters. I mean, really hated riding roller coasters, feared them. And then they found people who love them, like me. I'll ride anything. I love it. So they took these two groups of people, Tom, set them side by side in this new roller coaster, the scariest one they built today. And they took all of their markers, took their blood pressure, tested their blood, all this before. Took the ride, came back, drew their blood again, took blood pressure. Guess what happened? The people that were scared to death, that hated roller coasters, cortisol levels through, all the stress markers up, blood pressure up, all of that. And the people who love roller coasters like me, endorphin levels high, all the positive markers up. What's the difference? They both took the same ride sitting side by side. The only difference is how they took it, mentally how they took it. So most people go through life with this white knuckle ride and fearing things and kind of not enjoying the ride. So what I try to get people to do in life is just enjoy the ride, because yes, you're going to have cycles. Yes, you're going to have up and down times. It's how you take those times that are the most important, those down times.
Well, the thing is, I'm afraid too many people are relying on sitting and watching television as that, or playing games on the internet, or things like that.
And thinking that's going to somehow relax them.
That doesn't really work.
You're playing war games, I promise you, that's not going to relax you.
Or a scary movie or whatever.
Right, exactly.
But, so that's the other thing. You need to take some time out, and it's worth the investment. And you can do it while you're walking. If you really think this is a waste, people, just listen to some music that's nostalgic to you. And everybody enjoys that. So, just, if you're all tense, listen to something really wild at first, but slowly go back and listen to some, love songs or things that are, that would make a plant grow, not shiver and fear.
Or comedians or whatever.
Yes,
get yourself to laugh more and see the glass as half full and not half empty. So it is truly the way you take it, but also, too, laughing. I mean, that's probably one of the best medicines that you could ever get for stress and hypertension. So, folks, we're going to take a break here, and we're going to come back with a little nutritional advice as far as this problem is concerned. Hypertension, high blood pressure, stress. It's all just a negative thing. And so we'll be back to talk about the nutritional side of hypertension when we return on this edition of Understanding Your Health.